Okay, Cancer. Hello, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. We are looking at the new moon in Pisces on March 2nd, 2022, and the major themes leading up to the full moon in Virgo at 28 degrees. And that means the sun's going to be at 28 degrees Pisces, and that is on March 18th, right after St. Patrick's Day, 2022. It's my sister's birthday, actually, on the 18th. So we're going to be looking at the major themes for this next 2 weeks for Cancer Rising, Cancer Moon, and Cancer Sun. So welcome back, everyone. If you're new to the channel, new to this series, welcome. Thank you for being here. And a special shout out to my subscribers on Subscribestar, the Star Seed Fellowship. This content actually is going to be moving to that platform, subscriber-only platform after this batch here. So if you've been catching a couple of these forecast videos and you like them and they're valuable to you, you can follow the link in the description box below, and that is going to take you to my profile on Subscribestar, and you can join for $3 a month to be part of the Starseed Fellowship. And one of the other exclusive content or exclusive things for subscribers is that on every other week, the quarter moons, the week of the quarter moons, we have a Starseed Fellowship. It's a Zoom chat. You have access to the Zoom call as a subscriber, and that's when we're all going to get a chance to really just have a conversation and get deeper into certain subjects and actually talk to each other rather than me just talking at you. Although I am sharing quite a bit, and this is part of the channeling process, at least for me. I'm not channeling any being. I'm just channeling my higher self, and astrology is the language that it is coming through very seamlessly, it seems. So Cancer, oh my, we're gonna look at this new moon, of course, in Pisces, which is in your ninth house of belief, belief systems, higher education, advanced training, meaning. It's really about the pattern of meaning that drives us to contribute to a family, contribute to a society, contribute to creating something beautiful and precious, right? Alchemy is part of the ninth house. And so, Cancer, you are having this new moon in this area along with Jupiter. Your ruling body is the moon because you're a Cancer. And so very powerful initiation and hopefully intention setting around growth, development, and recognition of yourself in line with some sort of symbol of courage, of compassion, of leadership, of valor, right? Because Pisces, for all of the beautiful, imaginative, and as a Cancer person, all of the spiritual and emotional and artistic inspiration that also comes there, the sensitivity that we can tap into, unconditional love for each other. There's also a sense of really surrendering oneself to the collective unconscious, for better or for worse, right? And so a lot of admirals and generals tend to be Pisces suns, right? Because they give their role ultimately is to give over to the unseen but very cohesive spiritual connection, right? To give ourselves as an instrument for God's will, right? This is a big part of this new moon. So whatever that avatar, whether it be Jesus or any other archetypal symbol, it's really about aligning our own growth with that representation. And Jupiter is along to really represent and give a lot of resources and expansion to that idea, even more so, or a symbolic meaning that we can look forward to. And so this is the ninth house. So Cancer, belief systems have, it's time to step into a role in terms of maybe a teacher, a wisdom keeper, right? Go into advanced training. What type of larger or broader perspective or understanding do you want to align yourself with? What do you want to grow as in terms of your own personhood over the course of the next 2 weeks that is aligned with a symbol of the bigger picture and the meaning that actually makes society, right? What holds it all together. Remember that the ninth house and alchemy is about the friction of the dialectic or the concepts is actually the energy. That's where the energy is created in order to catalyze the reaction and create something new. So it's the higher mind, and belief systems can express themselves in religion, in philosophies, in mystical travel as well. But it's the idea, it's the belief and the meaning of a spiritual, cohesive brotherhood, sisterhood, society that is so important to the Cancer person, right? Now, you have been going through a lot of overhaul in the realm of interpersonal relationship in general. The actual form of your relationships has been the area of destruction with Pluto for years now, and has just been amped up so much since January of 2020, when Saturn and Pluto were in a conjunction in the 7th house. And also too, now that Venus and Mars are traveling together in this area, and they're both meeting Pluto on the 3rd, and then they will convene again in exact conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius in your 8th house on the 5th. Now, the 8th house is where Mercury is and Saturn is. They're both in a conjunction with each other at the time of this new moon. And this is the area of where actual power is generated in the relationships that we have in the 7th house, whether there be a marriage, a business contract, our social contract, just by being part of a nation, right? Any type of binding agreement that we are giving ourselves to in form, right? Because that's what the 7th house is justice and fairness of form. And contractual, right? That no matter what, if one does this, it's going to have an impact on the other. And so then there has to be a giving of oneself, at least in knowledge, and applying knowledge to this balance. There's been a very strong overhaul in this area. And Venus and Mars, especially now coming together and meeting Pluto right now and moving out of this area, they're assessing the damage. They're going through the battlefield. They're really starting to identify with each other and plant new seeds for potential new growth in these areas. So not all is lost, but it's the destruction of Pluto where the power to generate or transform really comes from and for you, it's in the 7th house, so of relationships. So never fear. There's new potential coming here, but it's been a rough ride for Cancers in general in this realm. So the realm of actual generation of energy, right? This is the realm of shared resources, cooperation. The 8th house is also the shadow, the dark night. The 8th house is our subconscious. It is the depth of feeling, the power dynamics in relationships. And this is where things like intimacy and trust and betrayal happen. This is also where secrets are kept, right? Because it's not obvious. It's the energy that is generated in the urge to come together and be more than ourselves. And this is the reason death and rebirth are part of the 8th house, is because it's the death of your own ego. It's the giving of your own solar energy that is your passion. When you give it over to this arrangement or this merging, you are giving it to something that then creates a third, right? Creates more. And so the 8th house also is your investments paying off, right? Or your debt. It could be that too. So for the Cancer person, I mean, Saturn has been here and has really given, I think, a lot of backbone and stability, right, to this realm that tends to be very dark and mysterious, and also a lot of sobering reality here as well, that there's no getting around. Well, really, for the Cancer person, it is that higher bandwidth of the Aquarian nature that it generates the power, right? That's where the power comes from, is in the collective, connection to each other. That's where the Cancer person finds that they generate power, okay? So Saturn is like the power station, right? It is like the infrastructure or the scaffolding or the fortress in some ways around, in the power structure, the power station itself, and is all of the equipment and the functioning of it in this area, okay? And has been holding it down in this area for, a little while now, while it's been through Aquarius. Now Mercury is meeting Saturn in this area at the same time, look, as this as this new moon in your ninth house. And yeah, there's been damage. There's been significant damage. There has been destruction, demolition. There has been there's been exploitation, manipulation, and death straight up of relationships and the form of relationships that had maybe needed to be destroyed. Maybe in the case of the US chart, for instance, because we're at this Pluto return point as well, it's, was scheduled from the very beginning, just like all of us. Our default setting of power is natal Pluto, but transiting Pluto is a different story. So yes, there's been damage. There's been a lot of damage, and there has been an assessment. There has been a sensitivity to it. There has been a real strong push to work towards something or act on behalf of new relationships, and not even new relationships, but a new version of you in those relationships. What it means to be in relationship has gone through such a large overhaul and is so parallel to what has been going on societally for the Cancer person. So yes, there has been a lot of damage, but there still is energy that has been generated that still exists within the framework, even if the form of those relationships has gone through a demolition phase, and we'll go through a fallow phase, and we'll go through another rebirth phase by the time we get to the end of 2022. But Mercury now meeting Saturn is like we can take the energy, we have the capacity mentally to engage in the realm of, for the Cancer person, in the realm of the underworld, right? And Mercury is the only deity in mythology that was able to traverse the underworld, the heavens, and the surface of the planet, the mortal world, right? And so Mercury is able, especially with the help of the Aquarian frequency, right, which is the next octave. It is the collective mind as opposed to our own mind. And so we have the capacity, all of us now, with Saturn and Mercury together. It's a reality check, but it also is an authoritative, like, here, I have all of the framework for the mind to actually be able to play and to process this much higher frequency of energy, the social nervous system, and not just the individual nervous system. So Mercury is able to traverse these darker areas with ease. And so the mind is able, your mind, and right now transiting Mercury is able to access these areas and get the authority from Saturn. So again, it's sobering, and it may be very limiting and disappointing, or you may find that there's no getting away from this frequency in terms of the energy that's already been generated. You still have to contend with it, but it's also a resource that you could still use. So whatever has been established and produced, even if those relationships are dying or dead, or the form of them are severely impacted, there's still energy that has been already produced that the Cancer person mentally is able to access and utilize for damage control, right? I mean, it's important that we realize how the mind in damage control at a personal and communicative level is so important right now. So, all right, Cancer. The reason I'm bringing this up is, number one, because of the area of being like the most mysterious and inaccessible and the darkest, but also two, that Mercury is going to move into the ninth house when we come into our first crisis point from this new moon, which is the first quarter moon in Gemini, which is in your 12th house. So what you can see here, Cancer, is that most of the energy of the chart, save Black Moon Lilith right now in conjunction with Sirius in your first house. So there is a strong primally protective aspect of your own identity that is in play here, which is important, but also the South Node in Scorpio. Everything else is at the top of your chart. This is about the areas of life that have to do with your relationship to other. This is where all the action is. So, the double-edged sword of Lilith here is, on the one hand, it connects you to something deeper than even your own identity now, something beyond that will stabilize you as a person, as you in your relationships is going through a lot of change. But it also can really pull you in so much that you become withdrawn, that you become completely secluded, or you are going totally inward, right? Like really withdrawing, really insulating. So be aware of that, because Cancer, out of all of them, has the potential to really fold into your shell, like a hermit crab or any kind of turtle, anything that goes into their shell to protect themselves. With Lilith here, I mean, if you can see that it's not just going into your shell, but going into the very space at the center of it all, that you really are drawing your power from, then it's an asset. But otherwise, just be aware of the tendency to pull in. And it's going to get more so when the moon comes into your 12th house at this first quarter square. So let's look at that. It's actually on the 10th. And there are plenty of other transits that are going to be going on during this time that are worth addressing. And if you are part of the dailies, then you'll be able to make the connections to the transits that I talk about to these areas of the chart. So we're going to see here that what we see here is that the moon is in a square to the sun. So this is the first real challenge at an emotional and intuitive level with this first quarter, this new moon in Pisces. And these are always crisis points. These are always personal crisis points where we are now facing a conflict or a challenge to that intention that we set, right? Just like the seed has to break through, the germ has to break through the seed. That's a big challenge. Just to do that is a stopping point for whether or not that life form is going to grow up and out of the soil or not. And it's the same thing with us. And so it's usually the emotional aspect that is not the full story, right? The first quarter moon is a half moon, and you have Black Moon Lilith right here. Again, a tendency to to emotionally adapt to and even feel a primal urge of survival and self-preservation in the face of the spiritual collective unconscious that is happening. Here's the thing, Cancer, this is your ruler, is the moon, and having Black Moon Lilith right there, there's going to be, again, the tendency for you to withdraw or to go into straight escapism and fantasy is going to be very strong right now, and you have to take yourself out of it to a certain extent, because everything is in the top of your chart. You're here to be part of the experience because of who you are. So the first challenge is, do you surrender and trust the pattern of meaning that you are establishing yourself within, and finding your example or symbol within? Do you surrender and trust that at the right time, everything's going to come to the table as it needs to? And in fact, this is where you're identifying with, as the moon and Black Moon Lilith pull you into the realm of the astral, the realm of the mystical, the realm of fantasy and imagination, which says, like, if I come to a decision or come to identify myself with a very distinct symbol in terms of meaning, and we're talking like very religious or spiritual in nature, mystical, because it's Pisces, there may be this kind of like urgency or sense of draw inward to be like, well, then how am I going to access all of the possibilities at this realm, right, of multidimensional experiences? How am I going to allow for myself to access all of the spiritual threads and timelines that are available to your own individual consciousness? And in a sense that it also keeps you from having to make a distinct decision about pattern and meaning, right? In terms of the spiritual nature. I think, Cancer, just be mindful of this. The tendency to want to draw in does not mean that there's not something here to feel into, because you're not going to be feeling just your feels. You're going to be the feeling of the feels along the entire spectrum, right? Multidimensional, past lives, future lives, however you look time as that way. And the collective unconscious, what the collective is not voicing necessarily, but definitely is the energy of it. You're going to be feeling that too. And wanting to keep your options open in this realm. In fact, feeling as if you do come into a decision in terms of pattern of meaning, that you will be somehow cut off from this energy that is created in duality. And it's not true, but we have to go through this tension, all of us, to see what this feels like and what it means to truly surrender and actually trust you as an agent of God's will, your own higher self, your own spiritual transcendence, right? Do you really actually surrender and trust it? So the thing that's going to be very stabilizing for all of us, but for the Cancer person, in terms of these very watery, dark houses that are formless and very emotional, because it's the 8th and the 12th, is that at the same time as this square, the moon will be in a trine to Saturn in the 8th house. So again, in the energy that's already been generated in these forms of relationship, these contracts, these ritual binding agreements in the 7th house, be it relationship personally or business-wise or in society, there's still energy that's there, and there's still the there's still the infrastructure, and there's still very much the material mechanism in place to draw the power of the collective as a whole. And that's going to, I think, stabilize you in terms of all of the mental possibilities, but also to keep you from, again, you have to be invested and aware of what's going on outside of you. And this, it's very interesting for Cancer. It's like, if you're able to kind of sink into your own subconscious, into the realm of your own depth psychology, right? Getting into your own shadow, really sinking into the power dynamics that already exist and that have grown and developed and as a result of what's already happened, because there's always opportunity to grow and learn, even if there's been some sort of demolition of the form of those relationships. There's something here that if you can find an emotional stability, right? An emotional anchor back to this area, Cancer. I think it'll keep the urgency and this primal need to protect yourself at a spiritual level by not committing to any one belief system. I think is going to it's going to anchor you, so you don't find yourself like going full on into escapism as a self-protective mechanism by not actually coalescing or coming to a real understanding, which is what the pattern of meaning really is, right? Because Gemini, there's never really you don't really settle on anything until you get to Cancer. And there's like a protective aspect here that you're going to be really feeling into at a spiritual level. You don't want to, because you've done this in the past. And I think this is a big part of this conversation for Cancer, is that the South Node in Scorpio, in terms of your own passion and your own voice in the past and what it's bringing up. And this is going to come up actually with the full moon. So I'll leave it for then to explore the nodes. But keep an eye out. Maybe it's in the dream state. Maybe it's in, in the stability of what's already been produced or distributed in your relationships. There's some sort of message of hope there that you can tether yourself to, so you don't just like emotionally, drown, in the potential of the collective unconscious, if that makes sense. Saturn is like an anchor or like a tether or something in the mind and in the awareness, right? Because this, again, is the air signs of Gemini and Aquarius. And also, too, at the same time that this is happening, Mercury has now moved into Pisces. It's very much like 0 degrees Pisces on this day. So there's no limit to what the mind can imagine when Mercury is in Pisces, right? It's just able to swim through the field of consciousness and play and imagine and dream, right? And there's so few boundaries or borders in this area. So it's really, the only limit is our own imagination. And it's coming into the 9th house. This is Cancer, I think this might be time for some sort of shamanic journey, some sort of mystical journey, some sort of journey into wisdom or understanding, into wisdom teachings, but not necessarily exclusively through a mental or intellectual, but in terms of really starting to identify the patterns of meaning and leaving yourself open to imagine whatever you want, because that's really our only barrier right now with Mercury and Pisces. So that's going to help alleviate, I think, some of the more emotional and intense pressure over here to not commit to anything spiritually, or to just allow yourself to be influenced by the multiplicity of experiences at a multidimensional level, because you don't actually want to, because you've done it before. You've committed before, and it's probably gone badly. I would say the South Node, again, being in the 5th house, is not an easy, in Scorpio, no less. You're going to see how this has backfired before for you, or feel into it. And the defense mechanism is not to align yourself with any pattern of meaning, but just to find your emotional connection to the tension in the duality, right? Ooh, that's not going to work for you, Cancer, especially right now. So, but you do have this ability to play in, utilize your pattern recognition software and your own cognition to find the patterns, to investigate them a little bit, to be willing to imagine new ones, and to resonate with the ones that do have meaning for you. Okay. And that'll be interesting at the full moon, because that's where Mercury will be at the full moon, will be at the same degree as this new moon just happened. So let's look at that, because my timer has gone off and it's time to wrap this up. So the full moon is going to be at 27 to 28 degrees Virgo. It's going to be on the 18th of March, as you're going to see here. Okay, we are again looking at this axis of the mind and understanding, right? Knowledge and belief. So for the Cancer person, being that the moon is your ruler, coming into this degree in Virgo, what we're all going to experience is a full illumination and reflection of our own emotional state in the expression of a unified energy into a multiplicity of voices, okay? And does the Cancer person emotionally, are you able to emotionally seize yourself through some sort of willpower in the face of a crisis of some sort, right? And the crisis could very well just be the experience of white light going through a prism and then moving into a multiplicity. If you don't understand that the visible light spectrum is the same exact photons, but just in their various wavelengths in a rainbow, then you would think that everything is breaking apart and that there is no unity. But the idea here is that the unity and the multiplicity are exactly the same. It's just a matter of that prism for the Cancer person is going to be your belief systems. Breaking this apart is your mind and your sensitivity to the world around you, and knowledge and cognition and perception, especially with the moon, is your intuitive perception and your own emotional environment. Do you have that Virgo mastery? Are you going to be able to hold emotionally and seize your own will, through willpower, seize your personality into integrity while there's some sort of crisis point in possibly your belief system shattering? But it's not even shattering. It's actually spreading into a beautiful diversity as it's about to come back into, the vernal equinox is right on your midheaven, right? This emergence of potential in your mission, right? This is really great, but you have to be able to align with a pattern that's meaningful to you and be able to understand it, because that's what's going to create whatever, it's the meaning of that leads you to contribute to your mission, your destiny. So it's going to be for Cancer. It's certainly about the emotional reality, but also your intuitive perception, I think, is really important, because if you're operating within a religious system, for instance, that will go through what will feel like a shattering because of multiplicity being experienced, you may find that your perception of the world around you and your emotional perception, your intuitive perception, who knows what it's going to reflect back to you, but it will be a full reflection. So to take that to heart. Now, Neptune is also in your ninth house, and this is just like so beautiful. Like the big picture is so humanitarian, it's so spiritual, it's so vast, it's so imagination and imagination land. God, it reminds me of that South Park, that 3-part episode that was really a movie, but it was a 3-part episode about Imagination Land. Oh my gosh, if you've never seen that, I really recommend it, because it is so relevant to right now. It's just mind-blowing. They were many years ahead of what's happening, which makes me wonder where their ideas came from. Anyway, I'm going to get on a tangent here, and we're out of time. So Neptune is here, and the belief systems that the Cancer person has been operating under, I think, especially since Neptune came into Pisces in 2011, has just turned it into this broad, humanitarian, very spiritual, very compassionate, transcendent type of experience. And Pisces in general, as the ninth house, is the Cancer belief system is in the connection of all of us and the spiritual, emotional connection. So this has made it that much more diffused, but also powerful. Now, if we fully surrender ourselves to the pattern. And when we do that, we become aware of our dharma, our part in it. And then we also become aware of our limitations, so that we can centralize our energy and put it towards what we are here to do, or what our dharma actually is. Now, when we come to this realization, for Cancer, it's going to be in your belief systems and the pattern of meaning that you find yourself within and that represents you. If we do nothing, either way, there is this water trine, right, to the South Node in Scorpio at this time that is still in a Pleiadian position and will certainly allow us an X-ray vision. We will get an X-ray vision of who we've been in terms of our past passions, our expressions, our authenticity, and our voice, right? This is the 5th house for Cancers, and perhaps there are aspects that are going to come out that we don't want to see. This is why the X-ray vision part of it is important. That's if we do nothing. That is still going to give us insight. Now, if we want to take that and invest that into where our soul is going now for evolution, this is bringing it into the social organism as a whole, your social networks, your social media networks, your organizations, your community, your town, the global society even. This is the area of your soul's evolution right now, is in the social order and the environment in which you realize yourself within. I feel like there are aspects about your individual authentic voice at some point that has been very powerful and has extracted power, but there is a hesitation that I feel for Cancer people to go back to that. And that's okay, because really it's about finding the natural value and inherent worth of your soul's evolution within the social environment as a whole, where you realize yourself. And this is, where Uranus has been. So it's been making society and your social life not very stable at all. But it's in that lack of stability that has allowed you to reestablish a commitment and a connection and a surrender to a pattern, a new pattern of meaning. So that also is allowing, that glitching of the societal matrix is allowing the Cancer person to actually have the ability to even make a new pattern of meaning in the first place. And it's in the societal framework that you are really being pulled to evolve in right now. So again, if you realize your dharma in terms of the belief systems and understanding, and maybe being a teacher, maybe being a guide, maybe being, training other people, being the master artisan in some ways, if you realize what your dharma is and your limitations, which is hard with Neptune involved because it's all diffused into one thing, you can really activate and invest that into your own soul's evolution in society, right? It's like your evolution is evolving society, and it's inseparable. And this is why I feel like everything here is all at the top of the chart for Cancer, because you really do need to come out into society and be yourself, and be your new renewed self in relationship, because you've just gone through all of this incredible demolition so that you can come into it as a new person in some way. So I know, Cancer, I gave you a lot more extra time, but it's important because out of so many of you in Capricorn, I mean, it's gonna be all up here in the upper areas. So it's important to realize your role within the whole social context and how important it is. So Cancer, I'm going to leave it there for you. I will see you on the next video, which will be the full moon in Virgo, if you're a subscriber on Subscribestar. In the meantime, if you want any type of reading, energy work to support your process, intuitive reading, starseed reading, you can follow any of the links in the description box below, and they will take you to where you need to go. Telegram, my website, email, all the video platforms. So in the meantime, and also free astrology summit from the 5th to the 10th that you can register for, also in the description box below. And there's information about that. When you click on that link, you'll go to the website for that astrology summit. So it's about embodying your star wisdom. And Cancer, I mean, there is something about you that actually is able to do that at an emotional level, because it's the containment of the womb or the family that allows us to embody our own character. So that's very important. You're very important. So thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate each and every one of you. Enjoy your time during this lunar cycle, and I will see you on the full moon in Virgo on the 18th. Bye.